Hello, I'm Brainy the RPG Cat. I'm a cat wizard VTuber who works in a multi-dimensional library, has numerous adventures, and plays a lot of fun tabletop-related strategy games. All here on my personal Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Brainy the RPG Cat. At least, that's who I am online. In reality, my name is Mike. I'm a 40-year-old graphic designer, and I am one of the 5.4 million adults with autism spectrum disorder. April is Autism Awareness Month, so for the whole month I'm teaming up with Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, an organization dedicated to creating the means for autistic people to be their own advocates in legal, medical, and civil discussions. For the whole month of April, I'll be collecting donations up to $1,000 in order to fund the continued work of the organization, which seeks to make autistic people fair participants in all forms of public life. For a donation of any amount to ASAN through my channel, I'll be giving away a piece of fan art which is usable as a Windows and mobile phone background. Also, I will take the top 10 largest donations during the month of April and enter them into a random drawing to win the hand-colored original artwork that was used to make the wallpaper. Autistic people are your friends and your family. We have intelligences and talent that allow us to progress and go far in the modern world. But society has been severely limiting to us in terms of workplace discrimination and availability of appropriate access to therapies. ASAN is working hard to change that. So please, consider leaving your donation here during the month of April. Thank you.
Brainy the cat. Brainy the RPG cat. It's a kitty cat.
Hello, cats and kittens, felines and felidae, humans and variant humans, and every race, class, and subclass. Welcome to another edition of Brainy the RPG Cat. Tonight we are continuing our read-through of the Blight, Richard Preck's Crooked City for 5th edition, GM's Guide from Frog God Games. The link is in the chat. And, last time that we were reading about this, we were looking at The Between, which is a mirror universe to The Blight, and the main setting of The Blight, which is Casterhate City. And, so this is a mirror universe, but yet at the same time it is actively being colonized by the people who are involved in the aristocracy of the Blight. So it serves that interesting double purpose. And so we only just began to walk away from that, and we got started to talking about one of the entrances to the Between, which is the Unseen. The Unseen, a mysterious nautical setting that has a lot in common with the In Between, but also just based on the concept of sea travel. And so we'll see how different all of this looks out when it comes to sea travel. And so once again, this is April the 12th. We're closing in on probably the middle part of the month, and we're still doing our donation drive supporting Autistic Self-Advocacy Network through Tiltify. And so right now is that our donations have been set at $480. I still need to match $95 for a little South Park sing-along I did that filled up our swear jar. I will be doing it, by the time that the month is complete. And anybody who's interested in giving away in the chat, we have exclamation point donate and exclamation point wallpaper set up for you so that you can follow the link to the Tiltify page and also the QR code that's on the corner of the page. And yes, thank you to Devin for putting that into the chat for me. Anybody who is willing to donate and leave me their email address will be receiving a free wallpaper and mobile wallpaper, and my email is also brainytherpgcat@gmail.com. I should have mentioned that. Okay, and the top 10 donators are going to be entered into a random drawing in order to receive the original art that I had used in order to make the wallpaper. So I think that's all business aside. Let's go ahead and let's get started reading the continuation of the Blight, Richard Preck's Crooked City. Shall we? Let me see. Get that out of the way. Get myself on the Windows capture. Alright, so Edge of Ruin, the Great Whale, Scrimshaw Lance. Okay, so this was a section that we had started on previously. This was the Unsea section. The Unsea is a seething mass of storms, whirlpools, waterspouts, and natural and unnatural terror. Hang on, did we already look at this? We'll just go ahead and we'll start from this section. The weather itself here is an aspect of the Between. In other words, in places as a living, thinking thing, storms are genuinely malevolent. Waves do indeed deliberately try to swamp vessels, and hurricanes pluck sailors from ships. St. Elmo's fire dances off myths and annihilates whalers, and vast whales swallow up the ship whole. Do not make the mistake, however, that the Unsea is cohesive or omnipotent. It is not, nor is it one single entity. The weather can slumber, its moods changing from fury to calm in an instant. The weather also sometimes works against enemies and monsters. The fractious nature of the unsea gives you complete guiding hand in events. If you want a whirlpool to open up beneath your character's ship and drag them to gods know where, then do so. If you want a vast tidal wave to swallow a scrimshaw at the end of your campaign, then do it. Tales of the Unsea. There are always stories, but when the place is as wild and endless as the unsea, and when the place is in between, a land that soaks up thoughts and fears and tales, it is always possible. That which is imagined becomes truth, and what is given life in a story is given breath. Dreaming is dangerous here, almost as dangerous as imagining. The stories below are the tip of the iceberg for such tales in the unsea and are further detailed above. The tales are read aloud or paraphrased text that the characters may overhear in the precarious, learn about whilst visiting or sailing the unsea, or even learn from the old songs of bards or storytellers in the city streets. The unsea is an elemental place that allows you to drop upon any folk, fairy, or other tale that you wish. A quick whisk through a group of legends of the sea could give you inspiration if it's needed. Here are an idea in order to give you some options. The ship's necropolis. This is a quotation. It is said that ships that sink in the unsea surface a year or so later with their crew still aboard and sail aboard the ship's necropolis. Imagine a lich yard of broken ships that gather as a vast, sick island reeking of undeath, brine, and misery. The ships, so those unlucky enough to have seen the place say go on forever, slowly rotting in the grip of seaweed and barnacles and blasted by brine. It has a king, but no ordinary ruler. Its blood is cold as its heart, and he sucks the marrow from sailors who cross him, taking their flesh, their souls, or even their memories to his tail. Yeah. Reminds me of the fallen lords under sea. Well, a great amount of nautical tales are actually just kind of paraphrased from the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, including a few very popular Disney movies that you have probably seen. It is said, the brackish king, they call him, between vampire king, the king sends the fronds of a terrible kingdom into the unseen, looking for other ships to swell its population. If you come upon a cliff where there's no land, or the stench of brine and blood, or call of the lost sailors, set sail and head away, or for the ship's necropolis. The turmoil. The whirlpools in the unsea are more than natural. They don't rise on high tides or anywhere that you would expect them. They appear when they want to, when the sea gets in a bad mood or the storm spoils for trouble. There are no whirlpools like those in the unseen, vast black chasms that roar so loud that those who get too close go deaf or mad. The turmoil, well, that's one of the worst ones. The turmoil is mad itself, you see, an insane spiraling madness of water a mile deep. Those who look at it die of fright, they say, and those that have heard it swear it calls out to them. Yes, it bides, does the turmoil, sick, twisted things that dance in the walls of water, screaming at those who can taste cleaner air above. The great whale. Nothing is as big as the great unseen whale. Like a storm it is, like a great dark cloud dancing with waterspouts and tornadoes. They are her children. Those and the things of teeth and decay that circle in nature beneath her gown of fetid water. Her tight bridal train is poison and her hunger insatiable. The cataclysm. Oh yes, it's real, lass. This is a place where the unsea falls into the nothingness of night, and that place extends its icy fingers into the seas for scores of miles around. Once on its grip, there is no escape from the tides and storms. The unsea weather. Unpredictable in the extreme, unsea weather can change in an instant. One thing, however, is always consistent. The sun never glimpses through the clouds. It goes dark, sometimes disturbingly dark, but the sun never shines directly on the unsea. Storms of incredible fury whip out of nowhere, driving ships off course. Not that most ships have a course. Captains simply follow their instincts. Ship loss rates are incredibly high, and were it not for the ease of the harvest there, the sea would be considered unnavigable. In the sea, weather tends to follow fairly set types, ranging from overcast skies where rain, hail, sleet, and snow are regularly encountered. Powerful storms can occur at any time, and waterspouts are commonly seen. Fog is a constant problem on the unsea, and banks of it can settle on ships for weeks. Temperatures are always at least cold and often much lower, and occasionally the sea freezes or strange isles of ice race past or into ships. Unique weather encounters. A place driven by forces of nature and thriving upon moves gives you another angle to approach adventures on the unsea, which is the bizarre weather. Um, where are the random weather tables? Some people love to have charts of random weather effects, and the charts within the Game Master's Guide are useful. However, I've decided not to include random weather charts, no chances for things like capsizing or being crushed by tidal waves. The simple reasoning behind this is if you want the characters to be capsized and end up washed onto some random ship full of intrigue and cutthroats, or if you wish players to be washed under a tidal wave and thrown into gods nowhere, then do so. Randomly assigning chances at a gaming table for something that has such a major effect seems counterproductive to me. Never overplay your powers, however. Giving your characters a slim chance through skill to save NPCs, cargo, or avoid encounters is good. Driving characters in a direction could quickly become boring. If you like the implied randomness of such charts, then plenty are available out there. They just don't form part of my thinking. Don't ignore the effects of the weather, however. Battling a dragon turtle in monstrous seas or in thick fog adds another dimension to an otherwise potentially bland encounter. Okay, so a place driven by forces of nature and thriving upon the moves gives you another angle to approach adventures on the unseen. The bizarre weather event, a quick check of the internet, brings up some inspiring video and photographic footage of some incredible things. Magnify them in the unseen. A couple of possibilities are listed below. The frozen sea. The sea becomes progressively icier until it eventually freezes. Does the ice herald the arrival of some creature come to hunt? Or does the morale of the crew or any hidden NPC troublemakers or monsters suddenly take front stage, bringing a totally unexpected twist to an adventure that could be about hunting, exploration, or curiosity? The eye of the storm. The storm goes on for days, but suddenly the ship enters the eye, a vast calm region of sea. Something exists in the eye, either a floating ship, a town, a creature, or perhaps something stranger. Navigating the unseen. Most sailors know of an old tale about the best way to navigate the unsea, carrying a potato or a fish head or a cork for luck, and then if they got lost, tossing it into the sea and seeing which way it floats. That way is sure to be home. The between compass is a relatively new invention and has been of limited success. Speak with animals is sometimes useful but often infuriating. Most wise captains rely on magic spells such as Find a Path, used to chart a course, are a lifesaver here, and those rare spellcasters of high enough level are sometimes found again amongst unsea whaling crews and paid well for their services. Other spells or combinations of spells have used to assist in navigation, and the art of navigation on the unsea and anywhere in between for that matter is the subject of magical research. No direction tends to be useless in a place that doesn't have a north, whilst flying or teleporting have inherent risks of weather and the chance of ending up somewhere badly wrong. So, Fallen London's Undersea. Okay, that's what I got wrong about that. Okay. Unsea equipment. The unique and hostile nature of the unsea calls for many kinds of specialized equipment in order to successfully navigate its waters. Typical types of equipment used by unsea sailors, as well as innovative devices developed specifically for navigation, are described below. These items can be found in Scrimshaw and frequently at the town bridge. Ambergris, memory ambergris, a ship's great bell, a between compass, unsea fishing tackle, a foul weather gear, and a harpoon ballista. A ship's great lantern, a load prow, unsea sheepskin, spermaceti, greater spyglass, unsea wagoner, and a whale wax whaler's long coat. Okay, descriptions below. Let's see, whalers. So, probably just describes some of the more interesting ones here. Memory ambergris. Some ambergris harvest from certain unsea whales somehow contains the memories of the beast it was taken from, and when properly distilled is similar in function to a between vessel. Memory ambergris described in an appendix, a Sea's End of the Levy adventure. A between compass creates a pair of heavy brass and gold instruments, the compass and the lodestone. A between compass does not show normal directional bearings, but rather has a single indicator, noting the direction of that compass's paired lodestone. The lodestone is usually left at port to allow a course home to be charted. Beyond 100 miles, the reliability of the compass diminishes with a 20% chance at any given time of a reading being incorrect by several degrees for 1D hours. Unsea fishing tackle, bewildering array of rods, large nets, and things with hooks that are used to catch fish. Such tools are for use in the unseen only, are in general too large to be used on more mundane seas. The load prow storms of the unsea are extremely violent and electrically charged. To save their masts, unsea captains travel with a load prow. A load prow is a sheaf of lead and iron attached to the prow of a sailing ship that draws lightning strikes to it and then harmlessly disperses them into the surrounding sea by means of conducting channels along the ship's hull. Lightning bolt and other electricity spells are drawn to the hefty load prow only if cast in front of or above the ship. The ship's skin is a special outer attachment designed to prevent capsizing during the worst unsea storms. The whaler's long coat, whale wax, the finest quality seal fur treated with an alchemically enhanced spermaceti. This bulky long coat protects a sailor from both the cold and the wet of a sea voyage. It provides protection from cold equal to a cold weather outfit, and items placed on its inside pockets are protected from a water exposure as long as the coat is not fully immersed. In addition, though it is not considered armor, it does provide an armor bonus of 1 because of its thickness and rigidity. It can be worn over light armor, providing the unusual benefit that its armor bonus will stack with that of any armor worn underneath, including braces of armor, even though its armor check penalty will stack as well. The Unsea Menagerie. The Unsea teems with life, very strange life. The between twists the form of those things within it, and the environment around the creature affects it in a greatly accelerated way. Part 6 contains a number of creature stat blocks well below. Some unsea inhabitants are given a more general treatment. In general, the creatures below conform to their standard stats in the game manual and other source materials, many with the between creatures template as described in Part 6. It is all too true that the variety of creatures encountered in the between is uncountable, and the unseen is no exception. Aboleths are unfortunately commonly found throughout the unsea. They almost always have a between creature template or subtype. The aboleths come in a variety of types and sizes, and their growth in the unsea does not seem to be anything that ends. The Spaboleth is one horrific creature in their variety that has its origins in the unsea. As an aboleth's intellect increases, so does its size and the effects that its specialized knowledge has upon its physiology. An aboleth from the unsea that studied necromancy, for example, would be partially rotted with areas of necrotic flesh on its hide, a creature that should not, and possibly cannot live. Fangs are sea monsters that the sailors talk about when spinning tales of the sea. They are creatures responsible for entire fleets and crews being lost and destroyed. They are thought by many to be the kings of the sea, as most other water dwellers pale in comparison to both the strength and size of the mighty Anfang. It is theorized that Anfangs are very likely the cause for some of the lesser whirlpools of the unsea, and bold unsea captains have killed at least 3 Anfangs here. In other confrontations, ships have been less lucky, and those Anfangs continue to roam the unsea, holding a grudge against the harpoon interlopers that sail above. Anglers. Lurking just below the surface of the water, anglers come in all shapes and sizes, from the tiny parasitic choking angler to the rumors of glimpsed horrors to the deep, such as the wretched shadow angler that casts a black globe of pure darkness, or the vile endemic angler whose light causes those who glimpse it to sicken, allowing the fish to attack them. Even the vast Goliath angler, said to be twice the size of the biggest whalers. Some are convinced that the various anglers are the pawns of the aboleths, and many believe that Caster Hage's own unique lime angler is merely one offshoot of this prolific genus. So, we're just really, pressing the horror of the deep sea by having a unfathomable amount of anglerfish. Okay, mangy bulls. The air on the unsea is alive with vast flocks of ugly, mangy gulls, not bulls, gulls, who appear to be half-starved and missing any of their feathers. They eat anything organic, and if they get hungry, have been known to infest whaling vessels and attack their crew, or even chew on the tough wooden planks of their hulls if they can find a secluded spot within which to nest. Gull hunts through the lower decks are something that every wise unsea captain orders at least once a year to ensure that none of the pesky intruders have compromised the integrity of the ship's hull. Evil seagulls. Well, a little more than seagulls who are extremely hungry and just have resorted to attacking and cannibalizing anything that they can find. Okay. The Sahagin. The Sahagin of the Unsea are reticent about contact. Evidence of their presence has been seen by experts and explorers, but so far they have not been encountered in any significant numbers. On the few occasions that have been encountered, it has been the incidence of mutation within their population is high. Whether the propensity for mutation exceeds to a higher incidence of malentity is unknown, but so far aquatic elves have yet to be encountered in the Unsea. If there is a malentity-like mutation for the Unsea Sahagin, it is possible that it takes some other humanoid form. Sea serpents. Vast sea serpents are often seen in the Unsea and come in all shapes and sizes. Brine sea serpents are regularly spotted, and fang sea serpents have been on the menu at the Precarious. Deep hunter sea serpents and shipbreaker sea serpents have so far mercifully been the subject of sailors' stories rather than verified encounters, unless those encounters have all ended with a complete loss of the ship and its crew, which of course is always a possibility within dealing with these monstrosities. Sharks of all sizes, but generally very large sharks and dire sharks, are seen in the Unsea. The physiology of sharks is curiously altered by between and almost have all of the between creature templates. Scum are common to the depths of the Unsea. They're the slaves of the Abyss who created them and regard the men who have arrived in the Unsea as invaders and must be destroyed. They regularly attack ships and occasionally land-bound outposts. Curiously, the Unsea scum almost never demonstrate the effects of the between creature template, as their artificial creation at the hands of the Abyss has somehow resisted the normal influence of between. Squids are a regular sight in the Unsea. From the more commonly see smaller varieties of vast ship crushers of impossible size and twisted bodies. Giant squids are common, and even larger creatures are regularly reported by whalers. Squids show worrying cohesion and sophistication onto sailors who fall into the Unsea, tearing them into pieces in a frenzy, and sometimes they sacrifice themselves in huge numbers to fulfill some unknown purpose, or even to carry out some act of seemingly appalling cruelty on other sea creatures, as if they bore a sentience and evil far beyond that expected in a cephalopod. Unsurprisingly, the Unsea whaler is convinced there's more to squids than meets the eyes. The terrible sunfish is always at least the size of a house and often much bigger. These creatures are unlike their more mundane kin. They have much larger mouths and more ferocious appetites. They're also as dark as shadows, and attacks by them often occur without warning. Gee, they sound scary. Awakened creatures. Spontaneously awakened animals and plants are common in the in-between as an extension of the land's and sea's own heightened awareness. All such creatures display an extremely high cleverness and an attendant cruelty. Turtles. The largest turtles spill into the unseen, and unlike everything in between, these creatures are expanded to almost ridiculous size and cunning. Dragon turtles, giant bog turtles, and turtle sharks have all been reported and less commonly cooked. Such turtle meat commands a very high price back in Casterhage. A curiously sad creature known as the mock turtle has also been encountered in the Unsea. This creature has an almost human countenance and is able to spread misery and despair with its mere presence. The fearsome walrus. The rarely encountered but formerly large fearsome walrus has a vile temper, has been known to even attack ships when provoked. These creatures are believed to be a larger, aggressively atavistic creature of the equally rare lion walrus. Weird fish. There seems to be no end to the size, shape, and different species of unsea fish. Things with several heads or bloated bodies like balls, things without mouths, and things that are manic threshing hordes of tentacles are so regularly seen by unseen whalers that they have become inured to the effects of seeing yet another thing that should not actually be able to live. A favorite is the quarry that swims in the schools in the vicinity of the edge of the world, though they resemble a 2-foot-long fluke-tailed cricket with spiky prehensile antennae and an external intestinal sac. The disgusting-looking fish are delicious and considered a rare delicacy in Scrimshaw and Casterhage alike. although customers are rarely allowed to see them unfiltered and in their natural state for the sake of business. Whales are the reason the Unseen is so busy with the invaders from Casterhage. They are great variety, but generally conform in one common aspect, which is their size. Unsea whales are massive, and massive whales are profitable to the ship captains that harvest them, and the rendering plants that sell their constituent parts. Types of whales encountered here include baleen whales, sperm whales, great white whales, killer whales, blue whales, crimson whales, faceless whales, and the extremely dangerous wallow whale. There are even rumors of the extremely rare and elusive singer whale, though they have yet to be confirmed. One more commonality is that between whales are intelligent and proving to be increasingly elusive and more often aggressive prey. And wyverns. Despite the lack of land, wyverns are regularly seen and often attack ships. They seem to have an innate ability to locate and colonize the many sea stacks scattered across the sea and use them to rest and hunt. Types of wyvern include the variety as well as fork-tailed wyverns, nocturnal wyverns, and even the thankfully rare barb-tongued wyverns. Almost all wyverns of the Unsea also have a between creature template applied. Most wise whalers carry at least one ballista with normal ammunition rather than harpoons to deal with the unwanted attentions of a wyvern or a dreaded flight of wyverns. Okay, so I have the sneaking suspicion that, I do need to back up just a little bit, because there's just one or two sections of the in-between that were intermingled with the sea, and I just want to make sure that, I have successfully read my way through both sections. Okay, this was the Hound Huss. This was Queen Alice's Maw. Okay, so this was the section that we were actually reading at the beginning of the last stream. I think I missed something. And so it's really just a few descriptions of locations. So I've already described the brittle ice. I've already discussed the Carrion, which is the large island actually made out of the carcass of a whale and is frequently home to the Aboleth. So then we go from there to the Cataclysm. There's a space where the Unsea falls into nothingness of night and void, and one place that extends its icy fingers into the seas for scores of miles around. Once in the grip of its current, there is no escape from its inexorable grasp. Few have ever glimpsed the Cataclysm, and no one has voyaged close enough to significantly explore it in any way. A few have tried and been drawn into whatever lies beyond. The odd, vain wizards who have sought to fly, or use any other magical means to see what lies below, have all been drawn by great gales into the fury of the Cataclysm, which likewise also defies all attempts at scrying. Only stories exist about the place, and they are all bad. The Cloven Sea, the unseen in this region, is torn, a huge slash between two great walls of water, creating a slowly shifting land exposed from beneath the waves. The tier is a seething, moving mass of water, usually 100 yards across and deep, but sometimes much wider or even narrower to the point that its watery walls almost seem to touch. Perched precariously upon one of its upper walls is the scum city of Thriss, where homage is paid in equal parts to the Aboleth of Carrion and the long-missing madness of the Mirror Storm. The great Between Kraken once made her home within the waters around the Cloven Sea, but has been banished to the mundane world for many years now. Corin's Labyrinth. Shortly after the discovery of the Unseen was the discovery of the Brittle Ice and the discovery of Corin's Labyrinth. It's called Labyrinth because that is the best description that sailors and cartographers can come up with to describe it. But in reality, it is simply a section of the northern Unsea, much like the rest, if anything. The waters here are unusually gentle and are frequently lashed by storms and perhaps with somewhat higher frequency of crabs and other sea crustaceans, but not large or harmful ones. It is almost as the sea is partially safe and pleasant here by design, an invitation for the lost, storm-tossed, or wayward voyager to sail within and find a moment's rest from the dangers of the unsea. Of course, once a vessel is piloted within the sea, haze gradually increases, so that eventually the ship sails through a nearly impenetrable fog, a fog that seems to give a suggestion of hiding actual walls water, as if the ship was actually sailing down hidden lanes into the deeps. Those who don't immediately come about when the mists first rise are lost in the endless maze of fog-shrouded waters, heading ever deeper into what exactly no one knows. But all who know are never seen again. As so famously happened in 1699 to Commodore Graves' subordinate Captain Curran and his entire schooner, the Wreath. Even ships that do immediately come about when the mists arise don't always make it out, for sometimes the mists rise quickly and thickly, and the ship that is lost from its view is rarely ever seen again. The Edge of Ruin, the lightship Edge of Ruin, remains anchored as a warning on the very border of the edge of the world, beyond the vast area of unsea that nobody has successfully explored. Though lightly crewed, she is a massive vessel, wide-bodied for stability, with a towering pinnacle constructed upon her superstructure atop, which burns a fiercely blazing magical beacon. Her captain, Ada Morathrier, neutral female human veteran, and her small crew are frequently visited by the curious, lost, or by those drawn by the astonishing harvest of whales and strange fish here. The Edge of Ruin's crew appreciates visitors as they bring supplies and cheer to Ada, who for some curious reason loves it here. The combination of Ada's lively spirit and broad smile, combined with a desperate location, being a curious calm to this frightfully elemental place. It is likely those who have been here often say that Ada has influenced the very nature of Between and created her own calm on the very edge of the storm. The edge of the world. There's a point in the unsea where sea angers, a place that simply cannot be navigated. At its edge, a battered lightship of great size called the Edge of Ruins heaves with an angry beacon at its top. The sea beyond the ship boils, a churning, seething mass of whirlpools. Tearing and grappling the ocean has been compared by many mariners with the great tempest meridans that separate the oceans of Leorgar in two. A type of in-between fish called the query is a delicacy that is rarely caught but often seen here. Its presence draws many sailors who come from the many miles to lay their nets out here in the verge of these destructive waters. The great whale, not so much a place as a thing that is the size of a place. There's a thing of corrupt flesh that swallows ships and in whose bellies sailors rot. Its gut is said to be larger than a town, and sailors are said to call out from within its colossal gullet as they slowly die or strive to live on the scraps of flesh and food devoured by the endless consumption of the great whale. The great whale is indeed big enough to accommodate people living inside it, and these unwelcome squatters live within the rear parts of the vast whale's mouth, dwelling in safe havens they have fashioned into crude fleshy dwellings that form air pockets whilst the whale is beneath the sea. They are not alone. So vast is the thing that Lacedon So vast is the thing that Lacedons, the undead remnants of sailors who have lived and died here, also dwell within it. The sailors trapped in here have tried to escape the maw many times, but it so far has always given up when confronted with the vastness of the unsea. They pray that the vast creature one day will swallow a rowboat or enough timbers to lash together a raft so that they can initiate plans to escape. Scrimshaw, the maritime outpost, sits upon and within a massive sea stack that rises from the waves of the unsea. It has many connections to the city district of Townbridge and serves as the headquarters of the Royal Unsea Whaling Company, administered by the Lady Constance Thorne, Governor of Scrimshaw, neutral female human noble, under the authority of the Darnell family of the Townbridge. In truth, Scrimshaw is considered a city district of Casterhage in its own right. Scrimshaw is detailed further in Chapter 9 in the Blight Companion Guide. The Scrimshaw lamps are lighthouses constructed of whale bones, one of the most readily available building materials in the unsea. They are 4 in number and mark the edges of a thoroughly explored and relatively safe part of the unsea. Each of it is bound by each is lit by a bound Ragefire elemental and manned by a keeper. Fostrime. The north map bears an almost constant patina of ice from the blowing spray of the turbulent seas. The frigid post is manned by Keeper Dobbs, neutral male street dwarf commoner, who was exiled here for crimes in the capital and given the choice of manning the lighthouse or being burned alive. Dobbs is slowly going mad and is being courted by the cult of the madness of the Mirror Storm, One day soon they intend to extinguish the light and destroy the place. The Choir. A small family occupies the Western Lamps. Earl Quad, neutral male human commoner, and his wife Elsa, neutral female human commoner, have 5 children and are happy to bring them up away from the foul influences of the civilization. Loath to see visitors, Quad does all he can to prevent conflict with the outside world. The Penance. The largest lighthouse is manned by the sorrowful man, neutral sentient lesser flesh golem, a creature of twisted appearance that, like Quad, is happy in isolation. The sorrowful man does not loathe company, however. It loves it, but it does not allow its sadness to consume it. Some captains love the twisted creature, which shows glimpses of a soul and which loves to read the books that they bring. There's hope that he doesn't kill an albatross, and that the albatross happens to be the ship's mascot. I always thought that's what the deal with the albatross was. Hope. Hope is the most southerly lamp and been bent into a strangely curved shape by the storms that constantly pound its flanks. It seems like only a matter of time before it finally gives out and collapses. Its keeper, Dabrin Hod, neutral evil male arcane assassin, is a lunatic and killer who preys on lone travelers and castaways. Hod kills anyone he gets a chance to, seeking to add them to his gift, which he is constructing in his cellar. The gift is a living statue made of animated portions of multiple bodies and cries out and sobs for release or death. Okay, so there's just like 1 or 2 sections here, and then I think we can proceed from here to the beginning of the next section. Okay. The ship's necropolis at the slowing, drifting location of the sea is choked with ships, an expansive crushing mass of timbers and plows, making one place that stretches and rises across from the sea swells. Mangy gulls call from its higher places, somehow remaining a single tangible thing. A beast known as the Brackish King, lawful evil between vampire, rules the ship's necropolis. He is tended by his crew. Some of them are vampires, but many of which are Lacedons or brine zombies, undead seagulls, and gargoyles stalk its seaweed throttled cliffs, and other more terrible undead lurk in its holes and bilges, sulking far below its decks, hiding from the breath of men, an aquatic corpse orgy. The Brackish King is able to draw ships from the bottom of the unsea at will, doing so when he needs fresh corpses and new structures to twist and lash. His motives are otherwise unknown. Sailors believe that the souls of dead sailors dwelled within them, so it was bad luck to kill them. If you kill one, you're meant to wear its corpse around your neck as a reminder of your misdeed until it rots into nothing. Okay, now I got all of that. I understand all of that now. Okay, the turmoil. The greatest whirlpool of the unsea, the turmoil is more than just a natural phenomenon. It is, like many whirlpools here, alive. A bound swarm of dozens of elder between water elementals, the turmoil occasionally drifts across the waters to hunt, only to return to its usual place a year or so later. Okay, so just go ahead and just skip the area that I've read already. And so then that leaves us with, okay, through the glass darkly jamming between, travel by magic. 2 quotations. Well, these are all Lewis Carroll quotations. But I don't want to go among mad people, Alice remarked. Oh, but you can't help that, said the cat. We're all here. I'm mad, you're mad. How do you know I'm mad, said Alice. You must be, said the cat, or you wouldn't have come here. Between is a curious thing, perhaps even a curious entity. Despite several attempts to tame the methods of travel to the place, access to the netherworld remains annoyingly unpredictable. Travel to between using spells such as Gate, Plane Shift, and Astral Projection fail to penetrate its heart, and even those mirrors that usually offer reliable access to between can fail, sometimes with catastrophic results to the user. The simplest way to enter between is to know a threshold or to enhance it by use of special mirrors and techniques known only to a handful, and even those experts often fail with terrible results. Travel within between is similarly unpredictable, and use of spells such as Dimension Door and Teleport have led to appalling tragedies. All spells of this nature cast to travel within between operate with the same chances of failure as a teleport spell, with the caster assumed to be heading for a false destination. Results on the percentile dice of 80% or more indicate the spell has functioned normally, while those of 81% or more suffer the effects indicated. Known affected spells include Arcane Gate, Astral Projection, Dimension Door, Etherealness Gate, Plane Shift, Teleport of all versions, Transport via Plants, Tree Stride, and Word of Recall. Other spells are affected at your discretions. Casting spells such as Magnificent Mansion and Rope Trick may also have their interdimensional space affected by its qualities, and where a mishap is indicated, either have an expected occupant ready in the space or have the space become something twisted and useless, perhaps even dangerous. Some seas of between are subject to localized effect as well. For example, some casters find it impossible to use windwalking given areas due to storms, while others find summoning monsters, either beings, twisted dead things, or ravenous killers that obey no one. The exception to these rules are the Between thieves. These daring, some would say foolhardy rogues use Between as a way of travel and escape, and their Between-related powers always work as indicated. However, even if a Between thief with class levels as a spellcaster who attempts to cast one of the above-mentioned spells is subject to the warping of its effects. The Mirror Voyager, what Between is like. Between is as much a feeling as a place, and when emotions become the fabric of a curious land, the possibilities for danger are greatly enhanced. Sailors, anxious as they voyage from the unsea, report several curious phenomena: stores appearing from nowhere, dark shapes beneath the bow of a ship, or a sudden dreadful calm. Between is a place that changes like a person's mood, and has been conjectured that even nightmares are able to breathe life from those explorers foolhardy enough to come here. Although it has geography, the geography is fluid and sometimes no logic exists for the way the place changes. Where a vast rainforest abuts a glacier, which in turn hides a warm ocean, the geography within these areas is also able to change to a limited degree, and some have suggested that Between is actually like a living dream or a nightmare of itself, where logic sometimes follows, but not always. Between is like an adult fairyland, a place of nightmares and dreams that has its own thoughts and wants. It is alive, and everything in it is alive, constantly leeching thoughts and dreams and hungers and fears from around it, becoming one consciousness broken by 1,000 madnesses. Here are a few other suggestions to bear in mind for GMing an adventure here. The Wakened Land, think of Between not just as a place, but as an extension of everything within it. A jungle, for example, in Between is not just an ordinary jungle. It is a collapse of all of its life forms: the hunger of the predator, the fear of the prey, the boiling heat of the day, and the power of the monsoon. Is like nature, but nature exploded. Dreams and nightmares come true, play upon a visitor's fears. They hear voices nearby. The night air boils with strange calls. Between ruin echoes with ghosts that whisper and cry in misery. Everything is alive. Play this how you wish. Do the plants become dangerous? Are the trees thinking? Do awakened animals or strange monsters plot against intruders? Have some disturbed internal logic. Night should follow day, but is a day unnaturally short? Does a night last a day, a week, or a month? And twisted geography. Think of Between as a jumbled jigsaw where some places do not fit together, some places do not link, so travel between them is impossible under normal circumstances. Think about how such a place ends. Does a jungle simply end at cliffs that vanish into haze, or does a sick mist settle upon the jungle, drawing characters back to where they started? A rudimentary map is provided in the Blight map folio, but its layout is a best guess by the often conflicting tales of various explorers. It serves as a suggestion of an averaging of the geography of the realms in Between, and is by no means intended as an accurate description of the exact topography. Okay. This background music is fitting. Well, I have the background music set completely random, but there are times when sounds really appropriate, and then there are times when I am discussing a dark and evil wizard to the background of a ska song or a polka. Alright, so let's see. Let me see. The Mirror Knights, sworn to protect Caster Hage from horrors of in-between, several groups of valiant and perhaps not so valiant but sufficiently greedy knights, warriors, and duelists have come together to form societies, aiming to protect the people of the city-state from supernatural invasion. The most famous of these groups, the Mirror Knights, is made up of hunters who fearlessly track creatures that come from in between. Aided by Between Thieves, these warriors track and kill the creatures mercilessly using a variety of hunting methods, from subtle stalking to packs of bloodthirsty mastiffs. The tragedies of Between, in addition to many dangerous encounters, the strange realm brings its own inherent dangers that simply seem to manifest merely by extended or sometimes not so extended contact with its strangeness. The Tween Blight. The most terrible of ailments can be drawn through the tiny threads of mirror portals and into the city. Terrible diseases that permanently bend the human form into a twisted caricature, much like the nature of Between itself. The whispered names of diseases such as stricken back, slime splinters, or madlands generally make the rounds of gossip, but none of them has yet been isolated by the sightseekers of Casterhage and proven to be truly a preternatural illness from beyond. It is supposed by many that such known maladies such as deranged, dislocating larva, and second-hand fluke might have surely originated in the twisted room of beyond. Even the eponymous Blight seems highly suspect to something other than mundane terrestrial origin. One ailment that is known to have originally been introduced to Casterhage from Between is the boiling pox. Though rare, its manifestation is distinct and always tragic. Removed disease does not work upon it, and is so infectious that the merest hint of its taint is likely to draw a group of Mirror Knights to isolate or even dispatch the afflicted poor soul. Long-term effects of Between exposure, a final note is warranted regarding the hazards of braving the perils of Between. Sometimes its long-term repercussions are a bit more insidious, though no less dangerous. Some frequent Between travelers have reported catching a glimpse of doppelgangers of themselves, or being stalked by a sinister twin, or waking up with a shadowy figure at the foot of their bed. In fact, some more learned on matters Between have suggested that Sir Donnan Grabe confessed on his deathbed to being a Between imposter. The Spiteful is a conspiracy of Between Fae and foul shape-changers who wish to invade and conquer Casterhage right under the noses of its people. They seek to do this through subversion of means of introducing changeling spite waifs into the cribs of certain of the city's new parents as a means to breed a generation between doppelgangers who control the reins of power within the city. It is likely possible that the Spiteful plays some roles in the mysterious motives of the lands of the Echo Queen, but no substantive connection has been found. Coincidentally, one of the only groups with the city that is aware of this secret group and its motives are Doppelganger Spies of the Vale. They have reported the machinations of this group to their minister, Grand Justice Bracken, but he has yet to move overtly against their incursion. It should be noted that certain other individuals of Casterhage have become aware of the Spiteful menace at times in the past, and have seen fit to declare their own crusades against corrupting influence in the city. More information can be found on the Spiteful in TB3 Bloody Jack by Frog God Games, which is probably one of the more specific storybooks. Okay, and so then this is the description of the boiling pox. Okay, so once again, another lovely between chapter image. So we're on to probably the meaty stuff of a specified campaign. We're going to start reading the Blight's Bestiary. Okay, so things. The creatures of Casterhage. Many common monsters are to be found cowering in the gloom of the city. Sea devils and mud rats are some of the most common, but here one may encounter nagas and rakashas, sphinxes, hags, bugbears, golems, ghouls, chaos beasts, and demons, as well as many other. Some creatures walk the streets wearing human form, others skulk beneath piers and in the underneath, waiting for the sun to set before walking the streets, and some are seen as little more than nuisance or even valuable servants or pets. Animals. As the city teems with life, both human and inhuman, so too it teems with animals. best for fodder or companionship, watch, or pest. Birds soar above gables, from the great Blight albatross and the gable hate owl to the hooded ravens and the blinding crows to the smaller birds, particularly the ever-present canaries with their singing voices which warn of death, the lime thrush, the gable sparrow, and the tiny moth wren. Dogs are a common pet, particularly in the rougher areas of the city, although the most prized are the terriers, which come in 100 shapes and breeds, and are much prized for killing rats and other vermin. Any gentleman or crook these days seems to have a fighting dog on a leash, from the Blight bull to the huge pit mastiff. And so it's pretty significant to point out that it is a lot more typical to use dogs to deal with areas of very large rat population than it is to rely on cats. Because, well, cats were used for several years, but, terriers are loyal and they are willing to do things on command. Okay. Cats are seen less, and certain fanciful, dim-witted individuals have even gone so far as to say that all the normal cats were killed in a single night by an army of cats from Between. The Between cats are allegedly ruled by an emperor who has some alien plot in mind for the city. Clearly, this is so much hokum. Despite the many cats, rats are everywhere and come in all shapes and sizes. From the vile, festering lime rat with its mangy body covered in lice to the much-feared, almost legendary giant rat of Shabbos, a mercifully rare foreign visitor to the shores of Casterhage, who brings plague in its wake. The City of Thinking Animals. One of the many anomalies given to the city of Casterhage is a proportionally huge populace of awakened animals. Some have conjectured that the awakening has some connection to the Between, and the frequent violations into the domain by locals have led to a bleeding of the essence of this land into the city. This has also been blamed for the rise in sentient animated objects. Clocks that refuse to chime, mortomata that kill the children they are supposed to entertain, and flesh guines that mysteriously crush their masters or pull all their limbs off. Others attribute the unusual manifestation to their intelligence to centuries of breeding and training, stating that some great evolutionary advance in animal intellect might one day take place because of this. Okay, so, strangely, apes of all types are seen in the city, no doubt due to its long and extensive history of trade and colonization of Limnos, and have escaped from collectors. Monkeys and apes are now common. Blight apes and blight monkeys are uncannily alert, and many are able to perform incredible feats of intelligence. In addition, no self-respecting organ grinder is without his monkey, or vice versa. Yes. Highly awakened animals. Extremely evolved apes. Stock animals are plentiful: cattle, sheep, and goats, as well as chickens, geese, and dodos, although they are seen in city knackers' yards awaiting slaughter. Dodo is very much an acquired taste, either being loved or loathed, and some eating houses specialize in preparing the bird with a whole raft of available recipes. The awkward birds are also raised for their large eggs, and there are pigs, a vast number of pigs, some of which, like the Great Fair pig racers, are said to be able to talk and reason among men. The popularity of private menageries in the later 17th and early 18th century RC assured that the escapees were common, and a whole host of bizarre creatures still hunts in the night. Some of these have developed local legends: the Booktown Panther, the Great Canal Python, and the Hollow and Broken Hills Crocodile are but a few of the hundreds of beasts that stalk the city. The Dark Fae, though not part of the unnatural world Between, is clearly a reflection of it. This includes a propensity towards attracting the sylvan creatures of the natural world, and the presence of many Fae within its strange borders. Whether the Fae are unnatural manifestations of the Between itself, examples of the darker types of the Fae in the natural world are just attracted to Between's presence, or simply Fae who have been trapped in Between and warped by its dark presence is unclear. Perhaps it is all of the above. In any case, the presence of the Dark Fae is indisputable, and they exist in a relatively large concentration in and around the city of Casterhage as a result. And now I want to visit a magical petting zoo. It is very likely that somewhere in Casterhage there is a magical petting zoo. Inhabitants of Lyme. that anything lives in the black dead, alchemically seething waters of the polluted heart of the city is remarkable in itself. However, the river teems with aggressive predators that feed upon the slops and flotsam, peelings and corpses of cats, rats, dogs, and people that fall into the lime daily. Slough eels with their slick white bodies and gnawing secondary jaws are frequently seen. Lime anglers, more commonly known as slop sharks, with their terrible disease bites and bodies like sacks of flesh, waiting to burst and hide in the shadow. Wallow whales swim the deepest areas, their cathedral-like wand bodies searching for prey, with throats lined with ragged bone beyond which lies the Church of Job. The stomach maw of the whale allegedly once home to the sea devil. Bog lanterns wriggle in the gloom. Their luminescent bodies, like the lamps of lanterns, wriggle in their gloom, and their luminescent bodies, like the lamps of the lime anglers. The Sunlum lion walrus, with its barbed tusk and sinful eyes, a creature that sheds its skin and becomes human when it attempts to secure a bride, just one more predator that watches the shore from the river's depths. Monsters unique to the Blight. The fungi of Castor Age is more alive than it ought to be. The bestial polypore, a malevolent symbiosis of beast and plant, grow in the evening and spend the night looking for people to invest. More terrible is the Blight itself, a peculiar, intelligent lichen able to take over whole streets in a single night and suffocate them, and only kept at bay from the constant vigilance of brave Blight knights, hunters who walk the streets at night armed with alchemic fire bellows. Some say Blight originally inhabited the city but was driven deep below. Some believe that the Blight will rise in mass and absorb the entire population. One thing for sure, the city has gained its nickname for it, whether she likes it or not. It is also the more common name of a creature, known simply as the Body Snatcher, a hive thing that dwarves say lurks in between roots at the very bottom of the underneath. The most common dray is a Heim, of which the cab companies find to be fast, tireless, and above all obedient. And while occasionally Heims go on the rampage and eat a few people, mostly these matters are hushed up by guilds and Masonic groups. A Hyde resembles a children's nightmare. It is only passingly equestrian, a slick creature of blackness that walks in a lopping stride, but is capable of great speeds when need be. More importantly, everything gets out of its way. There are many, many creatures unique from the Blight, from the foul Blight Naga to the night slug humanoids that dwell between the walls. Not all things have a name, and is sure that many, many things have yet to be discovered and catalogued. Pestilences and parasites. The most common monsters are the smallest in the city. The lice and infestations, sickness and disease. It's so crowded and twisted, the filthy, a city naturally they strive. Couple that with the abnormal proximity between an illness becomes something even worse than those usually encountered. A few of the better known and understood of these hazards are deranged, dislocating lava, and the alarmingly grotesque second-hand fluke. The Scrimshaw Gargoyles. In its heyday, Castor Age was famed for many things, and the Scrimshaw Gargoyles were one of them. These delicate figures are thought to have been created centuries ago as watchers to aid the local constabulary, spies and guards whispering in their eyries. Time has taken its toll on the whalebone constructs, and now they number fewer than 50, having been taken, destroyed, or worn to nothing by the constant wind high above the city. Each Scrimshaw gargoyle is different both in size and designs, but they share some features. They are carved from delicate whalebone, covered in strange sigils. Many of the writings are faded, and now the lichens and grime cling to their once statuesque bodies. They are also very much aware. Shoves my dinner away. The double-headed drawn. Second-hand fluke is a horrible thing to look upon, with a cankerous second pseudo-head sprouting next to the victim's own head. An urban myth states that some of these pseudo-heads developed their own minds and learned to talk. The most famous of these legendary second-hand fluke cases is said to be the double-headed drawn, 1672 to 1699. This poor sailor developed a pseudo-head which is so vile and vicious that it would attempt to attack anyone who came within reach, even spitefully gnawing upon the side drawn's own head from time to time. In an attempt to rid himself of the foul growth, Dran cut the head off with a knife, only to bleed to death shortly thereafter. Dran's pseudo-head is preserved in the Royal University of Surgeons in the Seminary. Shape Changers. There is a worldwide plague within the city, and in places a predominant population is these lycanthropes and their rat allies, which come in a dizzying array of varieties and sizes. The rats are by far the most prodigious of shape changers, but there are many, many others lurking unseen in the glare of the city streets. Spiders. Many types of arachnids call the sprawl of the city home. Gable spiders are common, as are the more mundane breeds of monster spiders, with the much rarer chymic spiders and phase spiders being reported only occasionally. Regardless of breed, all the spiders of the city tend to have two things in common. They are almost always invariably big and fast, and generally live amongst the city's gables and rooftops. Occasionally, great webs of skeins or cords, rags, and less pleasant things spring up between buildings and steeplejacks or roofers, or more usually gable meisters, and are paid great sums in comparison to the other laborers because of the nature of their jobs and the danger the spiders posed. Stitched things. Easily the most common type of thing seen in the city are stitched and remade creatures. Golems, homunculi, flesh ginds, necrocrafts, and other created creatures that are a daily sight lifting, carrying, and guarding. Necrocraft is a medley of undead body parts and corpses grafted together with magic to create a single animated undead creature with abilities based on its component pieces and the surgical and necromantic talents of its creator. Necrocrafts are better suited for brute force than delicate manipulation, and most creators build larger hulks rather than smaller, more agile and fragile necrocrafts. Now, necrocrafts can be of virtually any size and made up of undead body parts of any type. A typical specimen is 7 feet tall and weighs 250 pounds. The Tome of Horrors, Complete Creatures. Inerg, the Keeper's seminal work, The Infernal Tome, or the Tome of Horrors Complete, lists many terrible creatures that can be found above, below, or even upon the streets of Casterhage. A few of the more commonly known are listed here. Bone cobblers are said to make up an entire cast of the fetch, and their many lairs have inspired some of the more perverted and wicked artists in the cities. Some speculate that these artists actually encourage the cobblers in their collecting. Dark creepers and night stalkers see them underneath and are sometimes found living in the city, wearing tinted lenses and heavy clothing to disguise their nature. Rumors of a stalker king refuse to go away. The king without shadow plays his doleful songs, they say, whilst his guillotine beheads those who set eyes upon his kingdom. Countless gargoyles festoon the gables of the city, and amongst those are continuing sightings and encounters with four-armed gargoyles, fungus gargoyles who are created with spreading a particularly vile blight that rots hands and feet, green guardian gargoyles, and margoyles. Golems and constructs are common, of course, with flagstone golems and furnace golems being somewhat rarer. However, even with such strange constructs as Iron Maiden, Mummy, Ooze, Rope, Stone Garden, Tallow, and Wood golems can be encountered. The foul Witch Doll golem is often used by the Great Coven. The superstitiously dreaded Midnight Peddlers make up some of the fetch. Some are so infamous for their deeds that they have well-known nicknames. Rickety Rose collects heads in her cart, whilst the slithering peddler collects hands. Blind Bethan collects eyes said to be removed from willing victims, and will trade one to an unlucky soul who encounters her, but is willing to make a one-for-one swap. Peg-Leg Jabe often has some in-between creature or other riding in his handcart from his frequent trips to the beyond. These monsters, of course, are merely the tip on the diabolic iceberg of horrors that lurk in the Blight. Unliving and undying alchemic. Those who wish to live forever sometimes take this dark path through the use of the proprietary means available with the elixir of life. Those who take this route by choice hope to join the alchemic undying. Those who fail this endeavor are cursed to become the alchemic unliving. Those who are forced to take the elixir by cruel masters or terms of indenture almost invariably end up among the alchemic unliving. Alchemic creature template, more commonly referred to as the Reborn. The alchemic undying creatures are living creatures infused with the gifts of death through exposure to the mysterious elixir of life. Any living creature can be transformed into an alchemic undying creature when exposed to the elixir of life. An alchemic undying creature uses a base creature stat block with the following differences. Challenges increased by 1, constitution declines by 2, adjust hit points accordingly, always has proficient on strength and dexterity saving throws, and on saves against disease, paralysis, and poison, is immune to exhaustion and unconsciousness, never ages and sleeps, and needs only as 1/10 as much food, drink, and air as a normal creature of any time. A negative energy affinity, an alchemic undying creature never has its maximum hit points reduced by attacks from undead creatures. Regeneration, an alchemic undying creature heals 1 point per 2 HD at the start of its turn, unless it took acid or fire damage since its last turn. Copyright notice, author Alistair Rigg, based on material by Richard Pratt. The alchemic in living are creatures tainted by the curse of undeath through the exposure to the elixir of life. Those who partake in the forbidden fruits of alchemic experimentation face a dismal future. It is true that death, or at least mortal death by aging, so no longer a concern, but the life left is bleak and bereft of any of the joys of living. Any living creature can be transformed into an alchemic unliving creature that is exposed to the elixir of life. An alchemic unliving creature uses the creature stat block with the following differences. Okay, so I think that's exactly the same weakness list. Okay. Monster templates and named NPCs. Abigail. Abigail is a striking woman who has deep red hair set in fetching, cascading curls. She wears a long black wool coat over a crimson shirt and breeches, all topped off with a broad-brimmed leather hat and a light scarf over the lower half of her face. She carries a variety of tools for hunting and killing vampires. Medium female, human, neutral good. Let's see. Carries the following vampire killing equipment: a potion to cure wounds, and a potion of invisibility, 6 vials of holy water, a heavy crossbow with 24 silver bolts, a rapier engraved with the name Luther, a silver dagger, 2 silver mirrors, 3 wooden stakes with a mallet, a silver holy symbol of Mother Grace, and maintains a gold wedding ring worth 100 gold points, and a silver hat pin depicting a unicorn, 75 gold points. Algernon Alphonse Leptonia. When the characters first spy this fellow, they see a sickly-looking man dressed in the latest ultra fashions, affected, rouge, and effeminate. He has a picture of decadent aristocracy, from his gorgeous wig to his curl-toed boots. He is a vampire spawned, medium undead, neutral evil. Annalise Grost has suffered a mutation from her lycanthropy, has been stuck in a hideous hybrid form of a rat and a halfling. Her features are distorted, even considering her animalistic pairing, and appear to largely be the result of extensive inbreeding. Her curly blonde hair, delicate cheekbones, and ample bosom are repellent incongruous in combination with her pronounced snout and twisted fanged and slavering mouth and her hideously mismatched eyes. One lazy and the other spaced almost to the side of her head like a fish. Beneath her dark armor, her skin is covered in light brown fur. Small female halfling shape changer were-rat chaotic evil. Okay. Aurania. As a monstrosity approaches across its web, you notice that unlike other giant spiders, this one has a pair of diminutive arms and hands and an oddly brain-shaped hump on its back. Large monstrosity chaotic evil. Has shape changer, innate spell casting, and spider climb. Can bite and also shoot webbing. That sounds strongly like the menace from Werewolf of the Apocalypse. Garou shall not breed in Garou. Their offspring will always be born of mutation. Break none into the litany. I mean, the significance being that, this is only one, and everybody considers it to be some kind of freak accident. The Ashen Angler, the Vast Whale, the In-Between. Yeah, we've already heard descriptions of them. Okay. The Beautiful, the central figure in the Levy adventure. Her appearance varies in the course of the adventure, and you should refer to the text for this. Medium Celestial, Fallen Deva, Chaotic Neutral. Okay, not too much there. Balabra the Tangler, the creature resembles a man-sized flying jellyfish with 12 long tentacles. 4 thin eye stalks protrude from its cap. Its cap is brackish gray, and its eye stalks are dark gray. Medium Aberration Neutral has acidic blood, multi-attack, bite, slam, tentacles. Beltane is the god king of the major undead faction of city, the Fetch. He is not encountered in the course of the Levy adventure, but he is a major figure in the background weave of the entire city. Medium Undead, Lawful Evil, Shape Changer, Misty Escaped, Regeneration, Rust Metal, Spellcasting, Spider Climb, and Vampire Weakness. Has multi-attack, Unarmed Strike, Blighted Corrosion, Bite, Charm, Children of the Night Summon, legendary actions, can take 3 legendary action, only 1 used at a time, and is capable of moving up to its speed without provoking opportunity attacks. The Between Creature Template. A Between creature is infused with the weirdness of Between and is shaped and changed by its environment and its experiences. Some Between creatures are bizarre versions of existing creatures such as gargoyles and wyverns, while others are new creatures that don't have a non-Between equivalent such as Call Cuckoos and Heims. If you need or just want more Between creatures beyond those presented in this book and Blight Adventures, you can create them 3 ways. 1. Apply a Between simple template to an existing monster. 2. Convert an existing creature to the Between subtype using the guidelines presented here. This involves more effort, is better suited to major foes, such as creatures that command groups of lesser and Between minions. 3. Create a wholly new Between creature from scratch, following the guidelines below. This is ideal for a powerful villain or a recurring foe. Let's see. Between creature simple templates. Although life is in Between is simple, some creatures are common to the normal world in Between. The following simple templates can be used in any creature that does not have the Between subtype into a Between creature. A creature of one of these templates counts as a Between creature for the purposes of spells, abilities, and magical items, but does not contain the Between subtype by many benefits of the Between subtype. Okay, so larval Between. Increase strength and dexterity by +1, increase hit points and 1 hit die plus constitution modifier. Okay, so yeah, this is just a lot of conversion scale. So it would probably take a long birding ride into discussing everything specific to each creature type. Converting an existing creature. Most Between creatures have the following abilities. Between creatures are highly varied, so it's not a hard and fast rule that every Between creature must have these traits or can't have others. Between age. Many of your creature's statistics improve with the length of its exposure to the Between. Because a Between creature can't die of old age, even normally short-lived creatures can become powerful enough after centuries of exposure. These light increases are divided into 5 age categories. Larval, Naiadic 15 plus years, Adult 50 plus years, Elder 150 years, and Ancient 600 plus years. At each category, gain the following cumulative benefits: +1 to dexterity, +1 to any other score besides dexterity, +1 hit die added to its hit points and constitution modifier, and 1 feat or proficiency in 1 type of saving throw. So senses. A larval creature gains dark vision 30 feet if it doesn't already have dark vision. Damage resistance. A Naiadic creature gains resistance to damage from non-magical weapons. An adult creature gains resistance to cold, force, and poison damage. So this is actually, this is somewhat akin to how you would scale a player character. But by virtue of being around X amount of years in the in-between, as described in the by this table, are able to actually gain significant amounts of level ups as well. So, not just damage resistance, but also the addition of at least one cold or nature resistant. Creatures that are probably at the top of their level have the ability to become resistant to necrotic, psychic, or thunder damage. So, and all of these are considered to be cumulative. That's pretty scary. I mean, so effectively, monsters are just getting ramped up based on their own experience. And that experience is really just something that is deemed appropriate by the DM at the time. The Between Cat, vaguely feline, this hairless pale creature has wrinkled, flaccid skin, a pair of stunted vestigial limbs extending from its flanks, and a ring of small tentacles around its neck. It has clawed forepaws, each bear one wickedly hooked claw much larger than the others. Its eyes are dark voids, and a long prehensile tail and a long prehensile tongue extends from its mouth. Somebody doesn't like sphinxes. That's all I gotta say about that. Cats have always enjoyed a vaguely mysterious and sinister reputation throughout many cultures, and the Between Cat may be the most deserving of this reputation. Cat-like in name only due to its vaguely feline appearances, some scholars question whether Between Cats began as normal cats and were changed through exposure to the in-between. Others think that they are natural creatures of the between that managed to gain a cat-like appearance through their intimate contact with the mundane world. Some believe that are entirely unrelated species that simply evolved concurrently to resemble the more mundane varieties of cats. Whatever the case, Between Cats hold no special affinity for true felines and are yet able to move among them completely unnoticed by other cats without raising any alarm, even within their mundane cat forms. Whether the reason for this existence in relationship to mundane felines, Between Cats are one of the few creatures that enjoy seemingly complete freedom in moving between the natural world and between. Feline scholars, while their full agenda is not known, 2 facts about Between Cats are recognized among the most learned of scholars. First, they ceaselessly search through venerable tomes, petroglyphs, and other ancient writings in search of some unknown secret or secrets that they have revealed to no one. Second, whether related to the first item or not, Between Cats seek to completely unmake reality for their own hidden reasons. Null-tropic damage from their claws, amplified by the presence of other Between Cats, induces a loss of order and energy in the target and produces an overall breakdown of substance towards nothingness. Okay, now I'm starting to see a significant amount of cat fear in this writing. More than mere entropy, which simply describes the loss of order and cohesion, the nulltropy of the Between Cat breaks about a complete loss of existence in any form, albeit on a tiny scale. Armed with their nootropic attacks, Between Cats can accomplish their goal of unmaking reality one tiny piece at a time. Terrifying in groups, fortunately for the sake of reality and all who live in it, the nulltropic damage caused by a single Between Cat is minuscule, and they are loath to use it indiscriminately. Instead, save it for enemies in battles, and for certain artifacts and writings they have found over the years, whom they consider better enemies. However, when more Between Cats get together, the nulltropic attack becomes terrifying. Thankfully, nobody has ever reported encountering more than 56 in-between cats in one place. Oh, well, there's no more than 56. There is speculation, however, that if more did gather, even though given the there is speculation, however, that if more did gather, then the nulltropic damage they could cause could continue to scale to an ever-accelerating degree. Most sober-minded theorists refuse to think too long about the dreadful implications of this line of thought. The Between Gargoyle, a gargoyle but with blurry and distinct outlines, as if it doesn't entirely belong to its own substance. A Between Peacock, A fleshy sack discolored with veins sits beneath the trio of gangling legs that bend in all the wrong places. A head is thrust back that looks part bird, part cockroach. Its beak more akin to a stinger. Its peacock-like plume is littered with wretched-looking scraps of flesh, toppled by a grisly collection of severed harpy heads, the eyes of which watch you with tortured expressions. Okay, this guy actually might hate peacocks more than he hates cats. Okay, quite a significant amount of specific spells here. Death throws when it drops to 0 hit points. The Nightmare Acquire explodes in a mass of thorny, fleshy limbs riddled with teeth and hundreds of tiny filaments that hook into clothing, skin, and flesh. Creatures within 20 feet of the Nightmare Acquire take 66 piercing damage and are restrained. A successful DC 15 Dexterity saving throw has damage and presents it being restrained. A Swallow, a creature that in its turn grappled by the Nightmare Acquire, is swallowed whole. A swallowed creature is blinded and restrained. It takes 3d8 necrotic damage automatically at the start of the Nightmare Core's turn. Only one medium creature or 2 small creatures can be inside the Nightmare Core one at a time. A swallowed creature is unaffected by anything happening outside the Nightmare Core choir or attacks by outside it. A swallowed creature can get out of the choir by using 5 feet of movement, but only after the monster is dead. When the Nightmare choir inverts to normal, swallowed creatures are ejected prone to adjacent empty spaces. Multi-attack, claw, tongue, bite. Captivating him, the Nightmare Core raises its harpy plumes, which begin singing. They continue singing with as a bonus action for 1 minute. Creatures within 100 feet of the Nightmare Choir and able to hear it must make a successful DC 17 Wisdom saving throw or be charmed by the Nightmare Choir for as long as the singing continues. A charmed creature must move towards the Nightmare Choir along the most direct path, even if it takes them through dangerous terrain. A charmed creature that's within 5 feet of the Nightmare Choir is stunned. A charmed creature repeats the saving throw when it takes damage, ending the effect on itself with a success. Success on the saving throw leaves the creature immune to captivating him for 24 hours. And horrific inversion. The Nightmare Core inverts itself, becoming a huge maw filled with hundreds of quivering needle-like teeth. The choir makes a bite attack against any creature within 5 feet of it, regardless of grappling. Creatures within 30 feet that witness this transmorphication must make a successful DC 17 Wisdom saving throw or be afflicted with madness. If the result of the saving throw is 12 to 16, the creature suffers a short-term madness. 7 through 11, long-term madness. 6 or less results in indefinite madness. An inverted Nightmare Choir cannot fly or use a captivating hymn. It can revert to its normal form as a bonus action. When it inverts or returns to normal, swallowed creatures that are ejected are prone to adjacent empty spaces. Ecology. Solitary environment of any land. A Nightmare Choir is an animalistic predator that uses the mesmerizing songs of harpies to lure prey to its side. When prey is near, and prey is anything that the Nightmare Choir can drain blood from, this monster suddenly inverts its body to make a surprising attack. In its usual form, it appears as a veiny sack of rubbery, feather-flecked skin with bony feathered wings, a swan neck tipped along with a beak-like stinger, 3 skinny, multi-jointed legs tipped with talons, and long peacock-like plumes tipped with the several heads of harpies. So this is just actually a 2-4 version of the between peacock. Okay. When the monster inverts, it suddenly bloats into a balloon of flesh that rips apart to allow a great maw of hooked prey in. The collapsed flesh sac envelops its stinger, wings, and plume, which become unusable in this alternate form. Arcane feathers. 13 eye feathers of the Nightmare Choir's plume are worth 100 gold points each. If an eye feather is used as an additional material component for divination, the spell either takes effect as cast with a spell slot 2 levels higher, or the saving throw against it is made at disadvantage. Oh, hang on a second. Okay, Bileborn. This revolting creature appears to be formed of a tangle of limbs and pieces of rotting corpses that splay in all directions like some kind of demented sea urchin. The many appendages flail spastically as it moves with a disturbing rolling motion. Barely discernible, and amid this tangle are a number of severed rotting heads, their eyes open and watching, their lips wordlessly mouthing unheard imprecations. Large undead chaotic evil. Coordinated burst, one per day. As a bonus action, the Bileborn synchronizes flailing. Its speed increases to 60 feet, and it can make 8 slam attacks in its turn. This effect lasts until the end of the Bileborn's current turn. And then many arms have disadvantage in attempts to escape from Bileborn's grapple. Okay. Multi-tack, slam, absorb, babbling scream. The Bileborn screams, and incoherent babble. All creatures within 60 feet that hear it must make a successful DC 13 wisdom saving throw or be confused for 1 minute. At the end of each of its turns, an affected target can make a wisdom saving throw. If it succeeds, this effect can end for that target. Okay, the Bileborn is an undead creature born of alchemical and necromantic experimentation. Its purpose and identity of its creator are unknown, but the mistakes of this master have long since paid for, as the original Bileborn ultimately escaped and slew its creator, incorporating its body among the rest. A Bileborn seeks to increase its mass by absorbing creatures into its body. This does not increase the creature's size or change it in any fundamental way, but the crowd of body parts grows denser at its center. Then at some indeterminate point, the creature reproduces by fission. The fused conglomeration of rotten body parts splits down the middle, forming 2 Bileborns of equal size and power. These instinctively avoid each other as they go their own way in search of victims to absorb. These creatures are little more than horrid masses of dismembered and absorbed victims that somehow work in necromantic coordination and demonstrate considerable stealth and surprising speed for their size and composition. Despite their chaotic and jumbled appearances, their fleshy mass is physically tough, quickly using the dismembered parts of its interior to switch out damaged limbs on its exterior. The bulk of its absorbed brain tissue resides within the severed heads of the central mass of the creature, allowing it to function within a rational manner, though its purpose and goals are likely to be inscrutable to living, sane creatures. Alright. The Blight Ape. The creature looks like a strange caricature of a gorilla standing barely 4 feet tall and superficially resembles a tawny-colored version of that animal, save for its height. However, the resemblances end there. Rather than the look and posture of an animal, the creature carries itself with a sense of dignity. It stands straight, or as straight as possible, for a creature whose knuckles drag on the ground, and wears a formal black vest. Its simian face is carefully composed, with its eyes bearing the look of a long-suffering patience of a professional manservant. It is speculated that Blight apes probably originated as some species of the Bosi ape transported en masse over the years to Casterhage to serve in assorted menageries of the well-to-do circuses for the common folk and as game animals in the hunting preserves of the truly decadent. Whatever type of ape they are descended from is unknown because no further specimens have been found in recent centuries, and they are presumed to be extinct in their natural habitat due to hunting, as well as the wholesale capture and exportation of them. Over the years, their numbers proliferated in the city of Casterhage, and they took readily to the ways of their captors, literally aping their mannerisms and habits. At some point in the last century, bored nobles who long ago taking them to dressing them in finery and the mockery of their near-human appearance, realized that the Blight apes were no longer simply mimicking their human masters. They are in fact carrying out their own activities in the same manner as the humans around them. They had evolved into an entirely new species, no longer truly animals. Loyal and smart, with the realization of the evolution of the Blight ape came the discovery that they were both intelligent, but also extremely lawful and peaceful in nature. Likewise, though they can understand the common tongue well enough, they never developed the ability to use language of their own, beyond a few simple grunts and hand motions. It soon became in vogue to keep the creatures as scullions and servants, which developed over time to actually hiring them into trusted positions as butlers and governesses, with a well-known penchant for keeping their mouths shut about any internal secrets they might learn. By whim of the Caster Age law, Blight apes receive the same wage as any other hireling in their position and are now often seen as actual family members by some of the more benevolent folk of the city. However, there are far more Blight apes than there are staff positions in well-to-do households, so most Blight apes find themselves relegated to menial jobs and poor treatment. Most are actually employed by the city, since few businesses choose to hire a Blight ape over a human or another humanoid race if they're going to have to pay the same rate anyway. But there are some exceptions, particularly for jobs where a combination of extreme loyalty and extreme discretion are desirable. Ape together strong. I had that exact same notion when I was reading the earlier passage. Is that the Blight's a place where the apes have evolved, the pigs have evolved, the pigs have become members of the aristocracy, and the apes have become the working class. It's almost the very beginnings of a campaign that's right next door to George Orwell's Animal Farm. The Blight cockerel, lanky and bedraggled with thin feathers other than a white tuft around the neck, this rooster is particularly ugly for its kind. Its wattle and comb are both shredded and torn from past battles, and razor-sharp spurs have been tied to the back of its legs. Like Blight apes, these little beasts are believed to have originated in distant Libnos and were originally brought to Caster Age as part of menageries, but unlike the apes, no one wanted to continue importing the creatures after their nasty disposition was discovered. Somehow it seems they kept creeping unseen into ships in Lebanese ports and disembarking upon reaching the city. There was a time when seeing dozens of the things scampering across yardarms and hawser lines to reach the docks from ships newly arrived to the east was a common sight. When the true extent of their colonization of Caster Age was realized and their disease-ridden nature fully grasped, the city took steps to curtail this mass immigration. However, despite its best effort, the city's efforts were far too late, and now thousands, if not tens of thousands of creatures clamber unseen, though certainly not unheard, across the city's maze or rooftops. Twisted by the Blight, something about the city's influence appears to have corrupted the creatures and changed them from previously mischievous and unruly animals to actual beasts with just enough intelligence to have a taste for cruelty and a strong penchant for chaos. Despite their nimbleness and glimmerings of intelligence, all attempts by folk to domesticate them and spellcasters to take them as familiars have failed, as they invariably turn against their would-be masters at the first chance. They routinely destroy books and valuables and attack family pets. Their habit of biting at the fingers or toes of humanoid infants sleeping in their cribs has always earned them the eternal ire of Blight apes everywhere, who always attack them on sight. Blight monkeys share this animosity, going out of their way to ambush or abuse Blight apes at every opportunity, even flinging themselves into suicidal attacks in their attempts to bring them to the apes. They are truly fearless in their stupefying anarchy to attack a creature much larger than themselves, using their grating screech to summon more of their kind to join in on the attack. It is fortunate for the city that Blight monkeys appear to be the favored prey of gable spiders and festering lime rats, because otherwise the fecund beasts would likely plague the city to an even greater degree. Blight monkey may... I was reading the passage for the Blight cockerel, but then I accidentally skipped over to the passage about Blight monkeys. This is a description of the Blight cockerel. Cockfighting is a common pastime among the courtly citizens of the Blight, and the gamecocks might have been bred for centuries in the city just for these contests. The resulting breed of Blight cockerel is a distempered gamecock known for its viciousness in fights and its instinct to continue fighting, even after taking a mortal wound. Many runners of cockfights no longer allow Blight cockerels in their venues because of the likelihood that neither bird will survive, and their investment in training a prized gamecock will be lost even in victory. Blight cockerels are bred with normal chickens and will always attack another Blight cockerel on sight unless restrained. Before fighting matches that involve betting, some Blight cockerels are outfitted with fighting spurs, razor-sharp blades attack sort of legs. Fighting spurs replaces the bird's beak attack with a spur attack, which has the same attack bonus and reach, but does 1d4 slashing damage. Alright. So then that's the Blight Monkey. And then the Blinding Crow. This glossy black crow has fleshy pustules and sores growing out from under its plumage. This bird has a thick, heavy build and, even more surprisingly, has a central third leg that ends in an array of sharpened talons. Blinding crows are fairly intelligent carrion birds, known for their problem-solving skills and ability to adapt within the city environment. Despite past attempts to exterminate them, blinding crows are more common than ever in the city's trash dumps and are known for their distinctive screeching caw. Sociable, especially when not nesting, blinding crows may gather in communal roosts on winter nights, sometimes with thousands or even tens of thousands roosting in one location. When large groups of these birds gather, they sometimes form a large swarming flock and chase predators in a behavior called mobbing. Loud noises are the most common cause for murder of blinding crows to attack an individual. As foragers, these birds also clean up dead animals and garbage. In fact, blinding crows are often blamed for overturning garbage cans when the real culprits are usually raccoons or dogs. From prolonged exposure to the toxins and wastes in their urban environments where the blinding crows live and feed, they have developed an ironic affinity for a particular disease. Blinding sickness has festered within these birds, and they pass it from one to another during mating and while feeding. The feathers of these birds, although a glossy black, are marred by oozing sores that drain the scented fluid that dry and become encrusted. When the birds preen themselves, the diseased fluid transfers to their beaks, where it infects their bite attacks. Despite their third claw and sinister reputation, blinding crows are no more effective with claw attacks than a normal crow. Only when blinding crows swarm do their claw attacks really present a threat and live up to their names. Bin chickens. I don't know bin chickens. Bin chickens. They currently are chicken crows. There currently are chicken bones, but before that, they've been chickens. Something like that. Alright. The body snatcher, a massive lump of shadow like a gargantuan hillock, shifts in the darkness and reveals itself to be a living creature. Its body is mostly long arms ending in three-fingered hands. A massive mouth-like opening dominates the tip of its frame, a form which extends along prehensile tongue, studded with spiky growths at its tip. An entire beast appears to be covered in, or perhaps made up of, a lumpy lichen-like substance of tiny leafy growths. Known only as the body snatcher by the dwarves of the underneath, this massive overgrowth of ambulatory blight lichen lurks in the deepest caverns where the boundaries between the mundane world and between are the thinnest. The between somehow possesses sentience, likely from its long exposure to the strange influence of the other realm, and shares some traits of between creatures. The conglomeration of lichen growths has taken the form of a massive quadruped, but it shares no special affinity with that form, and in truth its body possesses no internal organs or other than the undifferentiated blight of which it's composed. The body snatcher, like the blight that makes up his body, is its strongest in absolute darkness and is debilitated by the presence of bright light. Its hive mind gives it some mental connection to and the ability to see through all growths of blight within 50 miles, as with this ability that has managed to maintain observation of the lands above and its inhabitants since before the city existed. Through this observation it has learned much of the ways of humanoids, has come to understand many of their languages, and it desires nothing more than to consume their bodies upon their deaths, directing its remote blight growths to do that whenever possible. The nutrients obtained from the consumed corpses help feed the growth of these blight patches, but something about these feedings is somehow transmitted telepathically back through the hive mind and serves some mysterious purpose for the body snatcher. It's for this reason that the dwarves gave the body snatcher its name, though none understand the full significance of the creature's impulse to consume the corpses. Whether the reason, most speculate, has something to do with the creature's proximity to between, and that is unlikely to have any benign purpose. The body snatcher stands 25 feet tall, even though it's made only of tiny lichen growths. These conglomerate quite densely, so the creature weighs more than 30,000 pounds, is well over 1,000 years, and is possibly much older and might well be immortal. The brain rat, indistinguishable from normal rats but highly intelligent with strange mental powers. Yeah, that's the extent of the description. A broken creature is not born. Instead, cruel teachings of coercive persuasion applied over time systematically strip it away of its will until it unquestionably accepts the instruction of a master. These techniques are taught only to high-ranking members of guilds that specialize in breaking creatures, such as the Grand Society of Obedience and the Sisters of Bestial Discipline. These groups have created a considerable industry of breaking creatures and selling broken creatures as reliable, yet docile servitors within the city-state of Casserhage. Any living creature with intelligence or 1 or higher can be broken, with the exception of familiars and animal companions. A broken creature uses the base creature stat blocks with the following differences. Constitution increases by 2, wisdom declines by 2. Proficiency and advantage on constitution saving throws, and dominated. A broken creature responds to its controller as if under the effect of a dominate monster spell that cannot be dispelled or broken. There is no telepathic link. Commands must be issued verbally, visually, through hand signals, or orally through whistles and drums, etc. The creature never makes a saving throw to end the effect, even when it takes damage or is given a self-destructive command. Okay. The Broken Fae. Horrific creatures, individuals with indifferent possible appearances. Okay, well, that's like the using the distinction, but that is usually exists between fays and creatures. The Broken Fray has 5 sorcery points and can use them on as either an extended spell or a subtle spell. Points can also be exchanged for spell slots using the following exchange. 2 points would be equal to 1 spell slot. 3 for any 2nd level spells and 5 for any 3rd level spells. The Broken Fae is a 5th level spellcaster. Charisma is its spellcasting ability. It knows the following spells from the Sorcerer's Spell Trip. Acid Splash, Chill Touch, Friends, Minor Illusion, Poison Spray, Charm Person, Comprehend Languages, Detect Thoughts, Suggestion, Gaseous Form, and Fear. They can breathe air and water, and it will partially freeze if taking cold damage, reducing its speed by 20 feet until the end of the next turn. Alright. The Canary. This tiny songbird has feathers of pale yellow with a slight greenish tinge, and streaked with gray and brown on its back and wings. These tiny birds were originally discovered among the subtropical islands of the south and were brought to the mainland to be bred as songbirds. Their numbers have flourished in captivity over the years, and it was eventually determined that they were useful in detecting dangerous gases in mines and caverns. Since that time, they've been widely employed by miners as sentinel animals to detect the presence of otherwise undetectable gas hazards before the miners are overcome by them. Okay. The Carotid Column. An exquisitely sculpted and finished statue of a beautiful female warrior with longsword in hand. The Carotid Column is more fully described in first edition foes by Frog God Games. It's probably the Frog God monster manual, effectively. The Call Cuckoo and the Call Cuckoo Gyre. This is no ordinary human child, but an infection, something that leached upon a living babe, whilst within the womb and smothering it, becoming something partly human and partly from between. Its form is fluid, oily almost, and the disturbing mixture of human and slug is revolting to behold. Let's see. So, yeah, chain shape, distorted, horrific appearance, salt vulnerability to salt, multi-attack tongue, and lullaby. When a Call Cuckoo wails its lullaby, it has the same effect as a confusion spell that affects all creatures within 300 feet of the Call Cuckoo who can hear the song. All potential targets must make a successful DC 15 Wisdom saving throw or become confused. It lasts for 1 minute or until the Call Cuckoo stops singing or loses concentration for its lullaby. Call Cuckoos are the tragic result of an unborn child corrupted by a Call Cuckoo sire while still in its mother's womb. When birthed by its human parent, a Call Cuckoo is tiny but otherwise has all of its normal abilities. Call Cuckoo has a 50% chance of being in either of its 2 forms at birth. If it's in its human form, it usually waits until nightfall to either escape into the night or murder its sleeping parents and then escape. If born in a slug-like form, it immediately attacks its mother and any others present in its attempt to escape. Though the birth of these creatures is a rare occurrence, there's a reason that many old midwives carry a bag of salt with them whenever they attend a new delivery. Okay, so then, yeah, the gyre version of the same creature than the cave fisher. Okay, so yeah, we're getting really, really close to the end of the stream right now. So I've probably make a decision is that we're barely up to letter C when it comes to the monster manual. Probably what I'm going to do is I am going to make an attempt to read through the entirety of the monster manual, and I will begin doing that during next week's stream. That stream will probably be the final version. That'll be the final stream for Richard Pratt's The Blight, and then we're going to start on a new manual. So that's going to close this out at roughly about 8 pages. So right now we're on page 130 out of a potential 100 pages. There's probably roughly about 60 pages left. And there's a very good chance that if that's not all based on the monster manual, then it's just going to require us to come back to this book and just read that additional section. Call it Richard Pratt's The Blight Revisited, something like that. Or I certainly will when I decide to name that other section. But anyways, thank you everybody once again for tuning in to Brainy the RPG Cat. Cursed Babies, like the ultimate horror. And I'm starting to get into a situation where I'm dropping frames, so I'm going to need to start to end this quick. But anyways, thank you everybody once again for tuning in to Brainy the RPG Cat. Once again, throughout the month of April, we're still continuing to do our fundraiser, supporting Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. Anybody who makes any kind of donation and then emails me at brainytherpgcat@gmail.com will receive a free wallpaper, and the top 10 amount of donors by the end of the stream are going to be entered into a random drawing for the original art. So thank you everybody for tuning in. I'm going to take a moment and I am going to do a raid. Let's see, who would I like to visit tonight? I think I would like to. Let's see, we're gonna miss some money. Lots of A-listers on a Wednesday night. This might be good. Maybe Flaming Monocle. So Flaming Monocle has been routinely reading books on Wednesday evenings, and so I'm debating whether or not it's gauche to go from one reading stream to another one. But let's actually do this. Okay, well, we're gonna go over to It Takes All Grinds. It Takes All Grinds is an alchemist fantasy VTuber, and right now he's in the middle of playing The Forest. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna head over there. I am going to be back on Friday. On Friday, I am going to we're going to be playing a game that, I probably haven't played for a long time, and is certainly of interest to people who are looking forward to the WoW streams I'm going to be doing at the end of the month. I'm going to be playing Hearthstone. So, thank you everybody for tuning in. Have a good night, everybody, and thank you everybody for watching.